Okay, so we're going to take a look at Monkey Lightning in its current state here. I've added a few things since last time, so now I think we got the splash screen to log in, and we're in. So as soon as the splash screen goes away, icon goes up there, we know that we're logged in. And this is the Monkey dashboard. This is where you will spend most of your time. Before I get into that, let me just go ahead and pop up the Monkey spreads, which is right now just a very ugly test looking screen here, but I did want to show you that it's working. We are pricing spreads internally. So I'll go ahead and choose heating oil for first leg of the spread, since I kind of already have it laid out for that. So we see that we have heating oil April 13 there, and we'll grab gas oil for the second leg of the spread, also April. And now that we have heating oil and gas oil, and we have the multipliers in, they're preset for this demonstration, but you can put in whatever you like. I'll go ahead and build the spread. It tells me that the spread was created, and what we should see, it's getting a little late here, so it may take some time for market updates to come in, but what we should see, oh, there we go. What we should see are market updates. So we have the bid at around 4,700, the offer at around 5,200, and we have the last, and interestingly, we also calculate the mid. So we use the mid of the bid and the ask for each leg to get this calculation, and then this calculation is going to be what we use to build our charts for spreads, so that we don't end up with those crazy outliers where the last price was old or stale. So but yeah, you can just see this this is updating here. I'll go ahead and minimize that. Just wanted to show you that spreads were at least pricing now, so that's good. And again, here's the Monkey dashboard. You have your notifications area down here. Anytime that a trade goes off, or you enter a trade, exit a trade, gets stopped out, that will appear down here in a row, and you can go ahead and minimize that or pop it back up, and you can keep it hidden, because if a notification does come through, it will pop up automatically. So you can basically keep that down most of the time, and then if one of your trades enters or exits or stops, you'll see that notification area pop up. So that's the notification area. We would scroll up and down here. The trade names will be here where it says Giddy Up. I just have a placeholder in, but that will be your trade name, some information about the trade, P&L, etc. And then you'll see your preconditions, your entry, your exit, and your stop for each trade. And that's the way that you're going to structure every trade in Monkey Lightning. If you come to a situation where you need to pull all your trades, you can also see that the tooltips are working here. So it shows you what each button does. But if you come to a situation where you need to pull all your trades, you just hit the emergency stop. Siren comes on, so you're immediately aware that you're in emergency stop mode, and it will pull all your trades with one single click, and then you can restart them just as easily if you like. So that's kind of nice. We also have the golden rules here, which we'll add to, but basically you can grab one of these and drag it into an existing trade, and it will add that rule to your trade. So these are going to be some of the rules that are kind of considered, just very good to do by traders better than I am. So can't hurt to have those there. And one new thing we've added here is charts. So if we click the charts button, the charts dialog comes up. We see we're set for day and one, so 1 day at a time, 1 day per bar, I should say, and then we'll just select a market here. Let's say CL for crude. So go ahead and find the outright and do April. Now the chart's okay, loaded up pretty fast. And now we're looking at 1 day data for crude, and you can see it's just a typical candlestick chart. Green for up, red for down, and we can hover over any of these to see the high, low, open and close. The close marked with an asterisk, so you can pick it out real easily, but the high and the low at the top and the bottom of the range, so you can see quickly that it was 96.84 here as a high, 94.63 for a low. and there is corresponding volume down here, which is kind of nice. So you'll see that we can also hover over the volume and see what 250,000, 220 traded that day, and so on. You can hover over any of these and see the volume. You can also hide the grid if you want to just get that a little plainer. You'll see that grid in the background. Some people like it. If you don't like it, just turn it off. And same thing with the volume at the bottom. You can just turn it on or off by clicking that button. So here, with the volume off and the grid off, we see a very clear picture of the chart. And this is all going to be enhanced. This is just a very simple placeholder chart. But on any of the charts, you'll be able to zoom in by clicking a zoom in button. And you can see now that I've zoomed in, and I can use my mouse scroll wheel, which I'm using now, to just move back and forth. So it's really easy to move back and forth through your chart data with the scroll wheel, which is nice. And if you want to reset the zoom, you just hit reset. It takes you right back to no zoom. So whatever you had, in this case the 1-day chart for crude, will show up again. And the other thing that we can do is if we zoom in and we're looking along here, and let's say we want to take a little better look at this area here, we just hit fit Y, and that's going to fit to the y-axis all your data that's currently showing. So that gives us a little better picture, and we could still scroll along here. I purposely don't have it adjusting the y-axis as you go, although I may add that in because I always hated the way you just couldn't tell what the price action was. If if you're moving along and it's constantly adjusting the price axis, it's hard to tell that you have a trend here or on the other side. So again, reset takes us right back, and we can click on any of these. The yellow highlighting is in here just because that's how you're going to select your chart bar for building your rules, which we'll see in a minute. So that's a daily chart. Just as easily come over here, select let's say a 15-minute chart, pick our market, again, let's say Brent this time, and we'll pick the April Brent contract, loading chart data, and there's 15-minute data for Brent, and very similar to what we're seeing for the day chart. And we can also go back and let's select the day chart again, and let's do it for, let's say, heating oil. We can have as many of these charts up as you want. So these charts can be, right now we have 3 up. You can have as many as you want placed around your workspace. So that's the way the charts look. If we take a look at the 15-minute chart, all the same things work as before. This time, zoom's a little more helpful when you have this much data. Again, I'm using the mouse wheel to move through here pretty easily. And reset the zoom. And you can also, right now this is just a placeholder indicator button, but I have up here moving average period and ATR period, and then the ATR multiplier. So this is going to be Keltner channels that I have as my default indicator here, just for testing purposes. And you can see if I change the ATR multiplier to 1, you'll see that those channels tighten up. Change it to, let's say, 1.5, and hit the indicator button, channels widen out a little bit. And this is where the zoom actually is pretty nice, because you can go through and get a good look at this. And like I said, you're going to be doing a lot with charts, so these will improve even from here as we go, but this is sort of the initial version. So we can close out of these chart windows and get back to the Monkey dashboard, and that takes care of charts. So now let's look at creating a new trade. If you've seen one of the videos before, this is very similar. Basically at this point you would type in a trade name, whatever you're going to call your trade, and you have your trade steps here. So you rotate through these, and the trade steps are preconditions, entry, exit, and stop. So entry, exit, stop are self-explanatory. Preconditions are any conditions that have to be valid before the rule will even test. So a good thing to put in preconditions would be things like time of day. If you only want to run a trade for a certain period of the day, that would be a great place to put precondition. So I'm going to go ahead here. The way you build your trades is by building rules. So I'm going to click on the rules chooser, and you'll see that there are no rules right now because we just started, but as you go you can build up your library of rules and just select those. We'll go ahead and create a new rule. You see it kind of fades out the windows so we don't get overwhelmed here, And now we're looking at a rule name, and we'll just call this first rule. And the way you build a rule is by putting together conditions. So we can select, and I'm going to change the wording on this, but and or. And would be all the conditions have to be true, or would be any of the conditions can be true. And then it can be a value, which will be most of the time, or a trigger. If it's a trigger, that means that if the rule is triggered, if it becomes true, then it holds its value until you reset it from one of your other trade parameters. So that's kind of nice because you may just want to know, let's say, if the price hit a certain point. And even if it reverted back, you may want to know that that rule is true. So that's the difference between value and trigger. Let's go ahead and create a condition. So conditions are pretty simple. You just take something like, let's use something really simple to start off with, a user integer, and I'll put a user integer over here. And then we're just going to compare the two. So we have greater than, less than, or equal to. So let's say greater than. And once we fill all these fields out in a valid way, which we have, then we'll get either true or false indicated here in the middle. So if I change this, you see it changes to true. And if I change the other user integer so that it becomes greater or equal to 4, then you see that switched to false. That's not very exciting. That's just us putting in numbers. But let's look at some live updating data. So here we have the ability to put in a random number. Okay, sorry about that. Little technical difficulty. So we're back, and you can see I changed this to a random number, and it's updating in real time. And any time that that number is greater than what we have here, which is just a user integer, we'll see the value change to true. And this may be nonsensical, but let's go ahead and add it. And you see this condition is then added to our rule, and it changes here in real time. You see the value changing, and you also see the result changing from green to red, whether it's true or false. So let's add another condition and make this, let's say, current time. Okay, so this is the current time, and we'll have a user time here, and then we'll compare it to, we'll say less than in this case. So less than, here's the current time. It's ticking, updating. We have a time that we put in here. And let's go ahead and change this. And you see it changed to true. So now that we moved our time that we're comparing to, current time less than user time, 59 seconds. So we would expect that when that gets to 59 seconds, and just like it did, change to false. So you can compare the current time to some time to execute a trade, that type of thing. There'll obviously be a lot more that you can do with that. Let's go ahead and add that. So now we've added two conditions, and you see both of those still updated in real time. And let's go ahead and add another condition with something a little more meat to it. That would be market data. So we'll go ahead and choose a market here. And let's use our standard picker, and I'll pick CL, let's say. Okay, so CL features, and we'll do April again. Okay, so we have April, and we see our bid and our ask price with quantities and our last price. So we can choose which one we want to be part of our condition. So let's say you see it's changing there, bid price, offer price, let's say last price. So last price, I'm going to go ahead and choose that. Market data, and for this side, I'm also going to select market data, and I am also going to make it crude, and we'll select outrights April. Okay, but this time I'm going to choose the offer price. So I'll say OK there. So now what we'll do is we'll make this condition true if the last price is equal to the offer price, which in this case it is. And like I said, the market's a little slow right now, but that's just a simple way that you can look at the price of a particular instrument and use it to build a rule that can then enter a trade, exit a trade, etc. So we'll go ahead and add that, and that rule is here. So we have a greater than, less than, and equal, and we see this one changing from true to false, which will happen with any of your conditions. So this is a rule that I named first rule. I'll go ahead and cancel that, and I'll say OK. So now our rule chooser has a rule in it, first rule. And I can rotate around, and let's say I want first rule as part of my entry. I just hit choose. And now first rule is in my entry. And I can easily activate and deactivate rules using the checkbox. And let's say I also want it to be part of my stop. I will choose that rule there also. And let's go ahead and just create a second rule. Just something really simple. Again, we'll just use a random number here. And we'll say greater than. We'll use another random number. Okay, so these are just two random numbers ticking back and forth. That's fine. One condition, and you see it changes in real time. And this rule only has one condition. That's okay. I'm going to hit OK. And so now I have two rules here, first rule and second rule. So if I want to add second rule to my stop, I select it, choose, and now first rule and second rule are part of my stop. And maybe my exit, I want second rule also. So I have that selected, choose it, and that's the way you add rules to your trade steps. And then you'll name your trade, and when you hit OK, then this trade will become one of your trades on your dashboard, and it'll be running, and you can monitor all your trades that way. So that's kind of where we are right now, just an update on Monkey Lightning, and hope you enjoyed it.